Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 322 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey, Seth. A little overwhelmed. We got a ton, and I do mean a ton of previews this past week, which we're going to need to cover all today.
Yeah, they went hard with day one of spoilers. We got so much stuff, and that's going to be one of our big topics. But before we get into that, we have another co-host in Krim. What's up today, Krim?
Morning, Seth. I am excited. Strixhaven is finally getting some more spoilers, and this is the set I've been looking forward to the most this year.
Yeah, so that's going to be our biggest topic for today. We have Strixhaven spoilers. We have some Commander 2021 spoilers related to Strixhaven. We got a ton of Mythic archives. They've spoiled like 200 cards in the last 3 days or something. So we got a lot of new stuff to dig through. Gonna spend a lot of time on that. Also wanted to mention a little bit. We had the Kaldheim Championship yesterday, which is kind of a new pro tour, essentially. And there are some interesting things to come out of the tournament. So we wanted to briefly mention Kaldheim Championship and then spend the rest of the cast talking new Strixhaven stuff. But before we get into that, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit. And Card Conduit, they are the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you have ever tried to buy list your cards, oh my goodness, it is a lot of work, a lot of sorting and shipping and typing, and it's not really a whole lot of fun. Like, you could be playing Magic, or you could spend hours sorting your cards to sell them. Well, this new service from the folks over at Card Hoarder, if you want to avoid all those hassles, they will take and sort, grade, and sell your Magic cards for you. And once the shipment is processed, you'll get the proceeds minus their fee. And right now, you can even get a 10% discount by heading over to cardconduit.com/goldfish. So thank you so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic. So real briefly, before we get to spoilers, did either of you watch any of the Kaldheim Championship this weekend?
I did not.
So when I realized there was a championship, which was way into the weekend, while I was doing spoilers, I did catch bits and parts of it. So I did watch maybe like 2-3 hours of it, but not the same as I would normally watch, which is like literally the whole thing, 20 plus hours.
Oh, actually, I did watch a match. I was watching Cunio versus LSV. Because Andrew Cunio was playing blue-black control.
That felt like a Crim deck. As soon as I saw what Cunio was playing, I was like, oh man, that is exactly a Crim deck. Just counter everything and Shark Typhoon eventually to win. That very, very Crimmy. And he did well with it too.
Yeah, it was a beautiful deck, a work of art. Very nice.
Yeah, so I watched some of it. I mostly, when I had time, jumped in and watched some of the historic rounds. Standard, kind of typical Standard stuff, which isn't bad. Standard, I think, is in a healthy-ish place, but it's just in a place where I've seen it all before. So historic, though, was pretty interesting. I think the most interesting thing to come out of the tournament, though, was not the tournament itself. It was a little bit of Moto problems, or I guess arena problems. I'm so used to Moto being the client that has issues. But yeah, so there was a game in the top 8 where Shahar Shenhar was playing Gregor Kowalski, I think, and arena crashed in the middle of the game, which, okay, that happens. So Wizards like, we're going to restart the game at the start of game 2. The sad thing is Shahar was almost guaranteed to win. He was very, very close to sealing it up and winning the match. And then apparently Wizards took and messed up restarting the game somehow and like mis-sideboarded. So once they realized that, they had to start the whole match over from the beginning, and Shahar ended up losing. What do you think about that? Remember, this is a pro tour. This is like premium, top-end, competitive Magic. Is that acceptable?
100% no. By now, with how much time the client's been out and everything, I do not think that is acceptable. We should also have a spectator mode. But
I don't understand how you screw up restarting it, and if you did, like, just do it again. Like, I'm super confused, right? Like, if they had the ability to restart from game 2, which you should, right? Like, you just need to have someone enter the game, forfeit a match or forfeit a game, and then you're into game 2, right? And then you sideboard like the players previously sideboard, and you're good to go, right? So even the jankiest of restarts can be done. I don't understand why they didn't do it. They're like, I guess we're live on air and we don't want to spend an extra 5 minutes, so Shahar, good job, you get a loss. Like I know. I don't understand why they couldn't just take another like 5-10 minutes and reset up the game again.
Yeah, I don't really understand that either. And definitely a frustrating way to go out of a tournament, I imagine, especially a tournament like this. Like if it was an arena open or something, like, yeah, that's not great, but whatever. But this is supposed to be the new version of a pro tour. And boy, I cannot imagine losing like the equivalent of a top 8 match in a pro tour to not only like arena crashing, but then I guess just incompetence or like some like human error causing that to have to restart the entire match. So yeah, if they're gonna keep doing this, I really hope they improve arena. Just from like seeing people tweet about this and having people respond to tweets about it, it sounds like other games have figured this out. It sounds like other big, esports, they have systems in place for if something goes wrong, they can pick it up where they left off, and you don't just go like, oh, we're going to start the entire match over. So hopefully Wizards heads that direction before our next pro tour.
I have a novel idea, Seth. What if they took all the cards and wrote them on little pieces of paper and then shuffled them together and played them? What if they just restarted with paper decks? Like, come on, right? Like, there's some catastrophic problem with Arena. We'll just finish this match in paper or something, right? Like, it just sucks that you're about to win and then there's a client issue and then you lose. Like, that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's frustrating on the ladder. Like when you lose the game you're about to win because arena crashes. But boy, I could not imagine with tons of money and pro points and whatnot on the line. So yeah, so that was the Kaldheim Championship. Any other thoughts before we get to our main topic?
Demir Rogues won standard, by the way.
Yup.
So yeah, I also don't understand like why we're playing standard like literally like weeks before a new set. Like no one cares about it. It should have just been 100% historic, or they should just push this a couple of weeks forward so that it lines up with like Strixhaven. I guess this is Kaldheim, so they should have moved it back all the way to release and then had it on new set release so people would be excited about both portions of the tournament. Because I think most players are like Seth, they're just like, I'll watch historic and then standards, whatever. So
yeah, like I watched throughout the weekend the historic rounds, but then I did not even try to watch the top 8 just because it was standard. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the tournament schedule is like. I definitely miss having big tournaments closer to set releases, but maybe in the future we will get back to that point. So anyway, we got more fun things to talk about. We have a million Strixhaven spoilers. Like, I don't even know. So many spoilers in the last few days. So we got a pretty big list to get through, or to try to get through. So Richard, why don't you walk us through some new Strixhaven cards?
All right. So a recap of what happened last week, since we're probably not going to get through all the cards. So you can find all the cards at mpgpreviews.com. But last week, they revealed all the Mystical Archive cards, all 63 of them. They revealed all 63 Japanese variants, which look amazing. They revealed the 5 Commander face cards. So Commander 21 is being released alongside Strixhaven. So they revealed those. We previously had the commands. We also got the deans from each school. And then it was Boros Day today. So we have a ton of Boros cards.
Lorehold.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Is it Lorehold? It is Lorehold. Lorehold cards today. So we're going to go through a smattering of each of these. But first off, Mystical Archives. What do you guys think? I think this is like the greatest thing they've ever made, because I want like literally all of them. And then I want the Japanese ones too. Okay, I don't know what to do. But all of these, this is the first time like every single promo I'm like is a home run.
I feel my like bank account hurting looking at this, because I know that I'm gonna only be able to get one or the other, right? So I think I'm going with the Japanese variants on like whichever, like, because I want Teferi's Protection, Inquisition of Kozilek. Did you see the Tainted Pact Japanese art? That one's super awesome. And of course, like Blue Sun Zenith. Like these are my 4 favorites so far, but like there's so many. There's like I guess there's Crux of Fate, the Japanese version. There's some controversy around, I believe, the English version. But yes, I am huge on the Japanese variants, and more importantly, what this is going to do for historic. So like, there's a lot.
That's the main thing I'm excited about. They do look amazing. It's kind of like a little awkward. The Japanese versions, I think there's an argument they're maybe the most beautiful Magic cards that have ever been made. Like, they just look so crisp and clean, and the art is amazing. So it's actually a little awkward because the normal versions also look good, but when you see them side by side with the Japanese versions, I think the Japanese versions win essentially every battle if you just compare the cards. So I think I would go towards the Japanese versions, although both of them look really, really sweet. I think my main excitement, though, as Grim said, is this is going to have a huge impact on historic. Like, we have storm cards and we have like some really busted stuff, which I'm actually like kind of surprised that we're getting Faithless Lutigs and storm cards and all these really busted spells in historic. It's going to be the Wild West when Strixhaven releases, and I am totally down for it. It is going to be super fun to see what historic is like with all these cards.
Yeah, I am curious what historic will be, because like some of these cards are just like absolutely like busted, like you had mentioned, and yet at the same time, you know, it's a good thing Swords to Plowshares it's just not allowed.
Yeah, Faithless Looting's good. Grape Shot, sure, that's fine, but no Swords to Plowshares. No
Swords to Plowshares.
I think, Grim, that's because they gave us a Divine Gambit Mystic Invocation, of course.
Right.
So why do you need swords if you have Divine Gambit?
You know, and Shock. We have Shock.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be awesome. And I'm really thankful in paper that they're coming one per pack. I think it was so better than old Masterpiece style cards that were so hard to find. A little disappointed that the rarity is so high on Arena. It feels like going to be pretty expensive, I think, whether you have like Primal Command at Mythic and Crux of Fate at Mythic. These are cards that traditionally I wouldn't think of as Mythics, and it's going to be painful to probably have to get play sets of them on Arena. So that is a bit of a concern. I wish they had done the rarity a little bit different to make them more accessible on Arena, but still, it's going to be super fun to see what a historic is like with all these cards.
Yeah, like I actually am very surprised they added Inquisition of Kozilek into this too. I'm just like,
who plays discard in 2021, Krim?
Thoughtseize has a word for you in historic. Like, people are already upset with Thoughtseize taking their cards. Now there's even more Inquisition. Like, there's the Inquisition card, and that's gonna just have, you know, people are gonna have a grand old time. Also, I'm excited for like Memory Lapse. Like, every card on here is such a hit, except for Infuriate. Not you. Like you can stay in the bin pile.
Memory Lapse is brutal. I don't know if people realize how brutal it is. It's essentially like a remand. Like, it's very similar to Remand. It's not even in Modern, but we're gonna get it in Historic. And I think that's maybe the most surprising thing is they're putting cards that aren't even in Modern into this format, and I don't even know. I have no idea what their plan is for managing Historic, but I am totally down to like Stone Rain some people and Manitize some people and like do all this stuff that just was never possible before in Historic.
We joked about it, but now is it possible that we see Blood Moon? Because I was thinking the same thing, right? Like, we go Elvish Mystic into Stone Rain. You have Red Green, right? Like you go Primal Command, and like there's the annoying LD deck from like Modern, pretty much, except for you just don't have Blood Moon.
I mean,
you can Ponza it up.
Seeing these cards, it seems possible.
We get enough standard Ponza cards that I think we'll eventually get Ponza in Historic.
Just actual like
Okay, one more question. Faithless Looting art, up or down?
It's really weird, and at first I was like, it was a little like just jarring, but then I was like, oh, I kind of appreciate this. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, he just wants to give you some coffee and take your temperature, I think.
Wait, coffee? I thought it was like miso soup.
We each see what we want, Krim. That's what makes the art so good.
Has anybody served you coffee in a bowl, Seth? Because I don't.
Hey, if all your coffee mugs are dirty,
that's an American size. That's an American size cup. Okay, that's a latte right there.
That looks like a bowl. Hold on.
The handle is facing backwards, so you can't see it. So it just looks like a bowl.
Oh, I'm supposed to know that. Okay, yeah.
I would say this is awesome. Like this is like the character we need in Magic, like that we lament over like the old cards. Remember when they had like weird cards which you didn't understand, right? Now we have it in modern cards, right? So, over time, one day you'll pine for this Faithless Looting, right? Would you take this
I
or
think it's
like
a really
generic
cool
fantasy art, like from the other sets of Magic, right? I would 100% take this.
Oh yeah, I mean this is what the like the archives are supposed to be, right? Like in like weird abstract art, like a lot of that. And I really like where Magic has gone in the recent year or two with its art, right? It like the secret layers, they've gotten really weird with some of the art. And then of course, the archives are amazing. The Japanese art, it's like, oh my God, yes.
I don't think I've ever seen a bigger reaction about card art though. Wow, did everyone was talking about it. I think at least the people who posted about it, a lot of people really didn't like it. I was one of the people that did like it. And I think that's fine. Like, I don't know. I think if you're an artist, that's what you want. You want people to feel something when they see your artwork. And even if that is, not necessarily positive, I think that's a win. I think if I was making Magic art, I would 100% rather make a Faithless Looting that everyone talks about and some people like strongly dislike and other people strongly like than just have some like bland piece that no one even bothers to talk about. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and I am super scared about Faithless Looting in Historic. Like out of all these cards, that's the card that I think I'm not convinced it's going to remain legal. Like, I think it could be bannably good in Historic a few months from now. So we'll have to see.
Well, I mean, we'll see because there's still Brainstorm, right?
Yeah.
Just remember, Brainstorm is also in the format.
Oh my goodness. We haven't even gotten to the main set yet. We've been going for like 20 minutes. We got to talk new spoiler cards. Richard, let's talk some spoilers.
All right, let's dive into some lore hold cards today. That's Boros. For you boomers.
No, lore hold.
We got Elder Dragons. There are Elder Dragons. I don't know how to pronounce this. Velomachus lore hold. 5 red and white.
No. Let Seth.
Actually, Velomachus. I was just working on the spoiler video, and I landed on Velomachus too.
This is definitely wrong. It must be like Velomachus.
Velomachus. Yeah, we're getting there.
5/5 legendary creature, Elder Dragon, mythic. I need to clear my throat here. It's a long one. Flying Vigilance Haste. Whenever Velomachus attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus's power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
So like I mean, I don't know how good this is in Standard, but it is cool to see them finish out the Allied Dragon Cycle. Or more of the Dragon Cycle, the ones that we didn't get in cons. Second off, this is pretty sweet in Commander though, right? Like I like this card a lot in Commander.
Yeah, it seems like a really sweet Commander card. I think I'm skeptical in Standard because it has a ton of attacks and it's obviously powerful, but 7 mana is a lot, and Boros is not the most rampy color. Most Boros decks want to be kind of like aggro and top out at like Showdown of the Skulls or something. So I'm not sure where it fits in Standard, but it does seem like a really powerful commander. Like you can just kind of Narset it up, I think, and try to chain together extra combat step effects with this off the top of your deck. If you got pump spells or equipment, you can be casting really big things. So I think it's going to be a popular commander card. Standard wise, I don't know. Maybe there's some Jeskai control deck that you play it and hit Graven Lore or something and draw some cards. Like maybe there's some way you can use it as a finisher, but it feels more like a commander card.
Can we pump it to cast? What is it? Since we're calling things by what they are today, Ragrin Ultimatum.
Yeah. I mean, technically,
you could
put them all the Skyclaves on it and go to town.
That's a lot of 7 drops, by the way.
7-drop tribal. Tomer, get on it.
Dies to Doomblade.
does not pass the Doomblade test.
You can't even get the hidden, right? So it's
well, the nice thing is though, it does have haste. I like, once again, that haste is sweet, and I mean maybe a Mardu Reanimator deck in Historic could work. I mean, or even better, we still have the Mardu enchantment that you can get a 1/1 version of it, but then you can only cast a 1 mana spell.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
someone-
if you play this
someone-
fairly, it's pretty janky, but if you can cheat it into play somehow, which given how we cheat on mana and like reanimation strategies and stuff like that, that's not infeasible. If you get this like early on, this is a blowout, right?
Someone on Twitter mentioned that this is like the perfect Armageddon commander. You just like play this and hit Armageddon, and you get to keep your dragon, and then
And what
and then win with your
your
dragon.
opponent do blades in response, and, and then you're like,
Well, then-
okay,
then
here's a 4-hour
everyone's
game.
sad.
I like I mean, it is different though, right, than your usual Boros card. So I do like this a lot. I really like what they've done with Lorehold. With Loreholds like cards this set.
It does generate card advantage, so that is pretty unique for a Boros commander.
All right.
Yeah, you know what it is? Loros. There it is. Loros is what I'm calling it now. So everybody's happy. This is just a really just interesting design from a Boros perspective. So I'm a fan.
All right. Sadric's Silverquill, the new Orzhov. 3 white and a black. It's a 2/5 Elder Dragon. Flying double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control.
Can you even play this in standard?
Yeah, this is a commander card. Put in like the main set.
Yeah.
Like, what?
This is just straight up commander, but you never know. I mean, for some odd reason, you could immediately get a 2/1 with your 2/5 if it doesn't die before combat.
I mean, maybe there's some arguments, like certain matchups. Like, if you're up against a Crim deck, what creatures are you going to have to put counters on Crim? Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, so that's kind of a free roll. Or maybe you're up against Nigh Adventures, and they've already drawn infinite cards because they have Great Henge and Showdown of the Skulls. Is giving them 1 more card really a deal breaker if you get to pump your team and, like, make a flyer or whatever you end up choosing? So, but still, you're giving a good mode to your opponent every turn, which makes me think this is, like, Boros group hug, or not Boros, but Orzhov group hug commander, essentially, or like a Orzhov kind of like political commander, which in that role, I think it's really sweet.
I don't know. I think this is egregious. We're literally co-releasing with Commander 2021, right? Like, imagine you sit down at whatever the Pro Tour is, pack 1, pick 1, you crack open your limited pack, you're like Sadric's Silverquill. You're like, come on, man. Like, these, like, why? It's like, why? We have a commander set. This is specifically a commander card. Just like throw it in the commander set, right? So
I would definitely look around the table to see, wait, are we busting Commander Legends too? What set is
or
this?
they could have just had a mode that was like somewhat more neutral that you could throw to your opponent. So you only get half of the benefit, but you know, they don't.
They should make it one of the modes. Target player sacks a creature or planeswalker. There it is.
Just give them a 2/1 without
that-
flying. The flying chumps your stupid Silverquill Shadrix, right?
Yeah.
Like give them a 2/1 with Defender or something, right? Oh.
Yeah, like oddly, all the modes are too good, I think, and that works against the card's power, which is very strange to say, but I think that's where it lands.
Your only hope is to play against Crim, and he has no creatures.
No,
He's gonna like animate his creature land and get a counter, and that's like
my tar pit. You know, I do play Crawling Barons, Richard. You are disrespecting my Crawling Barons.
all right. Next up is a card we haven't had in a long time. Actually, Paulo's World Championship card. So the return of the invitational card. So Paulo's new card, Elite Spellbinder, 2 and a white. It's a 3/1 human cleric with flying. 1 elite spellbinder enters the battlefield. Look at target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land card from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast this way costs 2 more to cast. So basically, you just choose a card from their hand and it costs 2 more to cast, right?
And they don't get it back, right? After this card dies. So
No.
I think this card is just really good. Like I'm talking like modern play and all of that too. Like, this card is really good.
It's the white Vendilion click, I think, essentially. Like, yeah, it's more tempo-y. Yeah, you don't get rid of the card forever, but that's really powerful. I think this card can see play back to Modern as well. Like, there's already decks that want to get their Ether Vial up to 3. This would fit in naturally in those decks. You can blink it, which is pretty cool because the card being exiled is not attached to Elite Spellbinder. So if you like play this and then Eldrazi Displacer or Ephemerate or something, you can just keep taking more cards and have your opponent have a bunch of stuff in exile. You can process them like Eldrazi Taxes style. And in Standard, you just hit a Wrath. Like, you play it in white aggro. It's right on curve when your opponent would be Extinction Eventing, Shadows Verdicting. And sure, they're going to cast it eventually, but those 2 extra turn probably means you just kill your control opponent or your Yorion opponent with your beatdown plan because they got to wait those 2 extra turns to cast their Wrath.
You get saucy, though. You put Drawnoth Magistrate in, they can never cast it.
Got him. You got him.
Got him. We got the 1/3 on 2.
I think it needed Flash. I mean, if you have a Vial, you have Flash. Without Flash, it's kind of meh. It's just a 3-mana 3/1 flying with like.
If this had Flash, this would be busted. Like, absolutely busted.
As is Paulo, right? This is Paulo we're talking about. If he enters my game, it should be swinging heavily in my favor.
I don't know if you read the article for this card, but they actually said that Flash was the one thing Paulo really pushed for but didn't get.
Oh, see, even Paulo agrees with me. He needs to be OP. It's like I guess it's like Shadow Mage Infiltrator was like okay, and then Elite Spellbinder's okay, so they put him on the same power level as Finkel.
I think this is Shadow Mage Infiltrator was good, right? Back in its like, standard life.
Yeah, but it's 2021 now.
This is still really good without Flash.
Like, you have to get the dream scenario of nabbing a Wrath on curve. Other than that, like in Modern, you play it and they're like, okay, I Fatal Push for 3, okay, right? Like it like the tax isn't that much. So like in a Humans deck where you can flash it in,
I don't know.
Human synergies. But I'm not playing this in Abs and midrange. Like, it's a 3/1. It dies to a Renin 6, right?
I mean, sure, but the thing here is that card is always going to cost 2 more. This is just
play Thalia. Like, just play Thalia. If
you
cared
have
about
Thalia
this.
with this. Then it costs 3. This card is sweet.
All right.
I like it.
Next up, we have more Boros cards. Lorehold cards. Venerable War Singer, 1 red and a white, 3/3 Spirit Cleric. At rare, Vigilance Trample. When War Singer deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage War Singer dealt to that player.
You ever get worried about like how we make fun of Boros every season and Lorehold? And now it's like finally coming back. They're like, because this is like card advantage, right? War Singer, Lorehold's now getting at like what is it? Mill graveyard interaction like that revolves around the graveyard, and like pseudo card draw. Like, this seems like the set for Lorehold to kind of like actually stop being a meme.
I don't know if Lorehold was ever a meme, but Boros might be a meme. Anyway, as far as this card, as far as this card, I actually think this is the best standard card we've talked about so far. Like, this card's really good. It's on curve. It's got a like mini Sun Titan ability, and it naturally works well with a lot of the cards that you would already want in a deck. Like, think of a mono white aggro deck. How do you make this card good? Ousted a Life's Bounty. Sack it, protection, hit you, get it back, just like Lurrus does in some decks. Like that same synergy. Selfless Savior goes to the graveyard. Maul the Skyclave, pumps it, sends it to the air. There's so many synergies. It feels really easy to have mono white aggro switch towards like Boros aggro, and for this to be excellent in that deck.
This card is so pushed. Like, I don't know why it has Vigilance Trample on top of a reanimation ability at 3 mana 3/3. So I agree. I think y'all forgot about like the good old days of Gideon, Thraben Inspector, and all that, right? Like, White Weenie is coming back, and it's just so strong. So it has to be like standard is so unfair that you cannot play like fair. Like, reanimating doesn't matter, right? But like, you play 1 drop 2-drop, they kill some stuff. You play 3-drop, you get it all back. You start hitting them. It has trample, they can't chump. You pump it, you can get bigger stuff back. This card is just really good. I'm surprised it's only rare, and it just has so many keywords that seem unnecessary. Did it really need vigilance? Like, really?
Yes.
No, probably not.
Yes,
but
it did. But this is Lorehold now. This isn't Boros. This isn't Grandpa's red-white deck. This is 2021's red-white deck.
All right. Speaking of cards that can't go wrong in any way, we have Efreet Flame Painter, 3 and a red. It's a rare, 4 CMC. It's a 1/4 double strike. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell will be put in your graveyard, exile it instead.
This card's like not great, right?
It's a free spell. No conditions aside from hitting someone.
it's sweet. It is super sweet. And when you construct the dream scenarios of this card, oh, they are amazing. Like, oh, I like
an
whatever,
ultimatum?
faithless looting my ultimatum and cast 2 of them on turn 4 and it's the greatest thing ever. Like, whatever. Like, the best case scenario, this is really good. The thing is, have you ever heard of Warren Instigator? Do you remember when Warren Instigator came out and everyone was like, oh my God, Goblin Lackey with double strike. It's only 1 more mana. And that card is stone unplayable. It's stone unplayable and it's +1 mana. This is 4 mana. It looks like double Dreadhorn Arcanist, but you actually got to hit your opponent. You got to be able to hit your opponent with this 1 power creature. So all your opponent has to do is play a removal spell, or think about this, a creature, and then all of a sudden your plans fall apart. They just got you. So I think this will be a great against odds card, but I have a hard time imagining it's going to be like a tournament playable card.
Yeah, this card seems like mega bad to me. So
What? I'm too casual now. There's got to be some deck you can construct where you just make it unblockable with protection, right? And then you just chuck like 2 ultimatums and it's like a turn 4 win, right? It's a combo, right? Where you somehow pull that all off. So standard.
Are we talking
maybe
Richard's
a
like,
little
yeah,
hard.
everyone's got Rogue's
Historic you can do. You have Faithless Looting now. You're all the way there, right?
Why would I reanimate this and not like Ulamog?
No, you don't.
Right? Like I like, because like that's the only way you could cheat it out earlier, and then I guess you cheat it out and then you play the 5 mana haste reanimation spell in Historic, connect, cast that spell again. I mean,
it seems legit in Commander. Like when you have 3 opponents you can attack, it feels like you can probably get through somewhere. Plus you have like lots more ways to make it unblockable. I just feel like it's so much work in Standard. Like,
yeah, or
why
even
not,
if
what if you
it's
cast
a trap card, but live the dream. Cast 2 ultimatums off of it.
Yeah, no, like once again, like that sounds great if you can set up that scenario, but like it does just seem kind of bad. In Historic
I'm
and
thinking
Standard.
Boomer Magic where we can get to 4 mana and like still play cards that don't immediately win.
It doesn't have haste. If it had haste, then okay, sure. Maybe
we can give it haste where it Lorehold has many
Haste-
cards.
No, without actually having to give it haste. It should just naturally come with haste.
Well, next up we have Strict Proctor, 1 in a white. It's a 1/3 spirit cleric flying. Whenever a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability or to trigger, counter that ability unless its controller pays 2.
This card's pretty cool.
I was hoping we wouldn't talk about this one. Wizards. This is like the hard counter to Panharmonicon. Like this is exactly my nightmare.
This card is so good.
Yeah, this card's pretty good. And it's 2 mana. I love it. And it's a 1/3, so it doesn't just get stomped or anything like that. Like or shocked. And this card is very, very sweet.
I think this is the
this
most
is gonna
modern
be
playable
really good
card we've seen so far, right?
This card should have flash.
Like, yeah, you just vial it in, right? You play spirits or something, I don't know, right? And then they're like Valakut. You're like, huh?
Well, I don't know if you want to, like, if you play spirits with this, does it not just like dunk on your own like spell qualities and stuff like that too?
I guess it dunks on your
I
stuff
think maybe
too.
a taxes deck, maybe something.
Yeah,
like
okay.
that, maybe.
You're gonna have to put it in the Taxes deck. But there's so many things.
Unless you want to just like You can like BM and like flex, like, haha, I don't even care. I'll pay for the 2 on my own stuff.
Well, and you can use it beneficially, like Lotus Field or something with the negative ETB trigger. You play this, then you Lotus Field, and you're just like, I will not pay the 2. And then it gets countered.
Guess it got countered.
Yeah,
oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. My lands get to stay on the battlefield.
Wait, is this card actually good? Do people play Hushbringer or anything? Is this just like the same card?
People play
Hushbringer is a 1/2, and people played that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest difference is this hits any permanent, which like Hushbringer only hits creatures.
Oh, that's
this is the first version of this that hits any permanent. So the Valakut thing or whatever wouldn't work with Hushbringer.
So this like just hard dunks on like sagas, right?
I think they'll still get their second lore counter, right?
Yeah,
they'll still
like
get the second.
The next turn they'll get the first lore counter or whatever.
It delays them by a turn unless they pay 2.
But I feel like that's pretty major in some spots, right?
Yeah, 1 extra turn is pretty relevant. Yeah, I think this card's actually really good.
Wait, yeah, you just play
really
your
good,
like broken lands that have ETBs, and you beneficially help yourself.
I can only think of Lotus Field.
I mean, that's good enough for me, right? That's a
right.
That's a pretty good upside, and you just play it in like a green-white hate bears deck or whatever, right?
Also, dodges Stomp, which is like super relevant for standard compared to Hushbringer, which like that is a pretty big deal. So
it's like Pants is a good amount of Yorion until they get to like 7 mana. Then you're like, well, whatever. But if they're at 7 mana, you're probably dead. So
all right, next up we have Torrent Sculptor. It's an MDFC, so hold on. 2 blue. It's a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard rare. It has Ward 2. So when it becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless they pay 2. When it enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on Torrent Sculptor equal to half that card's mana value. Round up. Backside. Flamethrower Sonata, 1 and a red. It's a sorcery. Discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery, Flamethrower Sonata deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control.
This card's really good, right? I think this card's really good.
Just
because like the front half, right? Sure, it's just it could be a threat if you need in the late game, but it's versatile enough because the back half can be removal early, and I don't know, it's just an all-around good card for an MDFC.
I mean, it is versatile. I feel like both halves are pretty meh to me. Like the front half, it only gets half the counters of the mana value of the card, which means
round it up.
Like even if it's an ultimatum where you're gonna get a 6/6 for 4, like hooray, we're in a world of like questing beasts and stuff. Like that doesn't really excite me.
In a control deck, right? Because there's gonna be a ton of like, you know what I mean? Like in a bunch of instant sorcery filled deck, this is just a threat if you need it to be, right?
I mean, it's like removal.
Half a threat.
It's
conditional removal with like slightly upgraded Snapcaster beats on the backside, right? Like it does something, right? But it's not like super exciting, right? Like it'll be like a 4/4. Can you close the game with a 4/4? Maybe. Right, but
you've closed a game with a 2/1 before. So
like the point is, if you're at that point, you could have closed with literally anything, right?
But this is for like standard. This is exactly that, right? Yeah. It could be that 2/1 beater, or it could be the removal early, like discard. Like, what is it? A rummage effect? Yeah, this is a rummage effect. Yeah. So like, I like this. I think this card is pretty good.
I feel like it looks really bad compared to Bone Crusher. Which Bone Crusher, you get both modes, and you get a bigger body, and it costs less mana.
But I mean, compared to Eldraine, every set of Magic is bad.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't think it's like stone unplayable. If you're playing a deck with a bunch of spells, the removal half is fine. Rummaging is fine. We do have a lot of spells matter stuff thanks to Magecraft, which I think is kind of like sneaky. This is a way you can like have a creature in your Magecraft deck but still keep your spell count high, which seems pretty powerful. So I don't think it's like bad, but I don't view this as like a staple. I don't know. Do you think, let's say you're building Jeskai control in standard, Crib, is this something you're like, boom, 4 of these, let's go? Or is it like, maybe I'll try a copy and see what happens?
I could see me playing like three copies. Like this once again, a lot of the MDFCs, right? Like we play a good amount of them. all of them aren't flashy. They're all slightly overcosted. Like, they seem kind of just like, oh, well, they're not that great, but they're not awful. And I think this is just like in the typical fashion of like the MDFCs so far. They're good. They're versatile. Their cost is like but they're not that bad. And like, I think this will see play. I think this card will see play.
So in a control deck, this or Bone Crusher Giant?
Well, I think that the fact that a Bone Crusher Giant is still just such a powerful card, but like that's, once again, that's Eldraine. That is Eldraine.
But that's our standard, right? Like, would you put this in or both? Maybe. Do you have 8 slots for these cards?
I do like this, but only because the ability to also discard and draw a card is pretty sweet. That could help me, and on top of that, discarding and drawing a card removes potentially a creature or planeswalker. I dig it. I think I would play this. I think I would play this genuinely.
I mean, you probably just play all MDFCs and adventures now. Just every card is 2 cards. We're pretty close to that point.
You could just have a textbook of a deck.
All right. Next up,
flavor.
We have a mechanic we haven't talked about, which is Learn. So this comes on Professor of Symbology. 1 in a white. It's a 2/1 uncommon core cleric. When it enters a battlefield, Learn. And Learn is you may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game, put it in your hand, or discard a card to draw a card. And the best lesson we could find is Illuminate History. 2 red. It's a rare lesson. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many number of cards. If there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token.
I think like these lessons and all that are going to be an absolute all-star in like the best of 1 format and stuff like that, because being able to just, once again, more wish boards and stuff like that, while not necessarily having to sideboard, is pretty fun. So I like that. The lessons so far, I mean, I'm not really sure how powerful they'll be, but I think I like them. I like the red one at least. I don't know if I like any of the other ones revealed, but I like the one that we had just mentioned. And I don't know. I mean, I think these lessons could just be really versatile if you already don't have a sideboard. I don't know about best of 3 when I'm going to have to cut. Like, I definitely don't think I'll be doing anything with a lesson in Modern unless there's something really good. But yeah, like cutting a sideboard slot. We've already cut one for like a companion, so it has to be somewhat on that level.
Yeah, that's kind of where I come down on these. I feel like this is a great mechanic for Limited. I think it's going to be really fun and Limited. And I think it's a really strong mechanic for Best of One. Best of One, your sideboard's just kind of a dead zone. Like, unless you're playing cards like this to take advantage of it, and being able to have access to any amount of value from your sideboard in a format with that's Best of One, and you don't actually use your sideboard, that seems really powerful. So I would not be surprised to see Learns and Lessons being great in Best of One, fun and Limited. Based on the ones we've seen so far, I'm pretty skeptical of Best of 3 and very skeptical for any non-standard formats. Like, they just don't do enough. Sure, technically your 2-drop or I forget the name of it, whatever the professor was, like, it draws a card when you come into play, but it's drawing a pretty underpowered card. Is it really worth it to give up a sideboard slot for that? I'm not convinced. So we'll see. It's still early. If we get some really busted learns or lessons, then obviously all bets are off and they could see play. But I'm looking at this as purely a Best of One and Limited mechanic personally.
What about a learn counterspell? Would that be too strong?
I mean, I guess it depends on how much it costs. If it was like 5 mana or something.
Let's say just 3 mana.
Yes. I mean, all the cards have been overcosted so far. Everything has had like at least
why would 3 mana
attacks.
counterspell be overpowered?
Well, it's just on curve for a standard counterspell. Yeah. That's already the baseline. And all these cards are like +1 to +2 mana over the baseline price because you get to tutor them up.
But so Professor Symbology is just a 2 mana 2/1 that draws the card ETB, right? Which
no, you want the counterspell. Oh, you want the counterspell to be the learn card or the one you tutor up?
Like the learn card, like the lesson.
Oh, you mean like counterspell and then learn?
No.
You mean like play Symbology and then grab a counterspell?
Yeah, grab a counterspell, not a counterspell that also does a learn ability. Because now that would be amazing.
I think it could be like any standard playable counterspell would be fine. And then
But why are all the other ones overcosted though?
I don't know. But it's just a 2-mana 2/1 that draws a card, right? Like, is that really bad? Like, that's not. You could.
I feel like it's got to be a 2.
You could have drawn the
It's got to be like
Endorion or
2
something.
that draws
right?
a bad card.
No, it could be like Spellvish Visionary, right? Like you can go and grab a random spell instead of a random draw like off of its ETB, right?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. This card is going to be, I think, pretty sweet if you can legitimately find a good lesson.
So far, we just have not seen good lessons though.
Like those lessons need to be a 4 of in your sideboard, right? Because otherwise, let's say you only have 1 after you play the first Professor Symbology. What are you gonna do, right? Like, you need enough lessons to cover.
We're back down to the 2/1 beat.
It's literal. It's like the Snapcaster with the rest in peace in play, just for the beats.
Yeah. Except it doesn't even have flash, so it's not that good.
Also, this is super awkward because, again, this is paired with Commander 2021, and you don't have a sideboard in Commander to wish from, so you can't play these in your Commander deck. Like, why is this mechanic in this set, right? Couldn't they put it in another set?
But you can discard and draw.
Yeah, it's very weird, the focus on Commander and how it goes, because the same thing is kind of true for a lot of the professors, where a lot of them one side relates to the other side, so you really want one of each on the battlefield. But if you played as your commander, you can only have one on the battlefield unless you go through some really massive hoops of like cloning it and then killing it and then recasting the other side. So kind of weird how this set works with Commander. But then other cards are like, this is only playable in Commander, but it's also in the main set. So strange.
All right. Next up, we have our first ever MDFC Planeswalker, Rowan, Scholar of Sparks / Will, Scholar of Frost. So Rowan is 2 and a red, 2 starting loyalty. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. +1, Rowan deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn, she deals 3 damage to each opponent instead. -4, you get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 2. If you do, copy that spell, you may choose new targets. Okay, backside. Will, Scholar of Frost. 4 to blue. Legendary Planeswalker Will, 4 starting loyalty. Instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less, so same passive as the other side. +1, up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 0-2 until your next turn. -3, draw 2 cards. -7, exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. So do you still remember what the card does after I finish reading it all?
For me, all the emotal abilities are cool, I guess. I kind of remember them, but I'm talking about that passive. That passive seems sweet, right? Like Rowan coming down on 3, making my spells cost 1 less. We just got Grape Shot and all this other stuff into Historic. So this is like currently your Baral until they show me a Goblin Electromancer. But yeah, like I think this card is it's pretty. It's like it's very niche, right? It has to be in a specific deck, and specifically a Storm or a Magecraft deck or something like that. I also got to support Will because I love Frost Mages or Frost Wizards, whatever you want to call them, and so this seems like a fun card in the right Storm deck or a Spells Matter deck.
Yeah, I think the static is the big payoff. I think for me, the static ability, we've seen it be really good. Like you said, Brawl, Electromancer, those are kind of staple cards in Modern Storm. And while being extra mana is a bit of a drawback, dodging creature removal is nice. So I could see some sort of Historic Storm deck taking advantage of it. The other payoff, I think, is just trying to rush Rowan's ultimate. Like the Mirari type ability where you get to clone your spells for 2 mana as an emblem that's basically impossible to deal with. If you can play this on 3 and just ++ ultimate, that actually seems really powerful in a lot of decks too. Downside is Rowan doesn't defend herself like at all, and Will, I don't know. None of the abilities on Will really excite me. Like, drawing 2 cards is nice, but it's 5 mana, and then it goes down to 1 loyalty. So, I don't know. I think you play for the static ability primarily.
It's a 3 mana enchantment. The instants and sorceries cost 1 less. Like, these a bit like Rowan has no ability. You're pinging for 1, so you're really just trying to race the ultimate, right? And then Will, that's a lot of mana for like a divination and some temporary removal, right?
But it is a MDFC once again. I think we're kind of forgetting that part where it can be either or, and I like that. It could be a 3-mana planeswalker or it could be a 5. Of course, it's a little underpowered for what the typical 5-walker is, but I think the fact that it's modal makes it big.
You know what we need? We need cycling on them. So you can be like, do I want this card? Do I want the other card? Or do I want a random card in my deck? Like many choices.
Soon we're getting there, right? I mean, like every card will have so much versatility that I'd like, oh my gosh. But however, you put this in a Ketria deck. Sorry, not Teamer, my bad. Ketria. You can have the new Kasmina, and Rowan can immediately +2.
Ooh.
Now we're cooking.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was really hyped for MDFCs when they came attached to lands because they're kind of free rolly. This is still a card in your deck, and I don't. Neither half is outside of like storm scenarios and stuff. It's really hard for me to imagine just like playing this as a value planeswalker in like a random deck. So I think you got to be, like you said, I think you got to be in a specific archetype that can really embrace the static abilities, and then I think it could be good.
I mean, yeah, the static ability is the big thing here, as you could tell, because it's on both sides. So this is very much so a niche planeswalker.
All right. Next up, we have Valentin, Dean of the Vein. A single black, 1 CMC, 1/1. It's an MDFC, by the way. Legendary creature, Vampire Warlock, coming in at rare. Menace Lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Backside is Lisette, Dean of the Root, 2 green, 4/4 legendary creature, human druid. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn.
Even the tokens have a lot of text. I love this. I think the front side of this card is actually really good. The back side, I'm not really sure yet, but I do think that the front side is very sweet.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about this for. Just as like a hate card, essentially, kind of shutting down Cauldron Familiar, shutting down Blood Artists, things like that on a 1-mana body, which comes down on turn 1 and has Menace and Lifelink for some reason, and you can like collect your company into it or Court of Calling into it. So that's what I'm mostly looking at. Like, I kind of almost view this as a mono black card. I imagine the decks I would play this in, some of them might not even have the mana to cast the back half of it, but I think the front half has a lot of potential.
What is a pest creature token? Why is it not an insect?
It's a good question.
It has to matter, like, right? We have to assume that there's a use for a pest token somewhere down the line. Maybe
I think pests have that ability, the when they die gain 1 life, because I believe we have one other card, and pests are the same thing. So
the only pest I know is Signal Pest. Are there actually any other pest cards?
Wait, can Pest Tribal finally exist?
This is it. This is the key card, and it's in your command zone.
Richard, you love jank command, like janky.
I just need you guys to play a ton of creatures, and I need to have a Wrath, and also Cabal Coffers and Urborg on the battlefield, and then I can make like 5 pests. I got it.
And then when you kill the 1 pest lord you have in Signal Pest, it's over.
That's actually a pretty good pest lord, Signal Pest.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Rip Apart. Lorehold colors, red and a white.
Nice.
So 2 CMC sorcery. Oh, this is a sorcery? Oh no, I read it wrong the first time. Choose 1. Rip Apart deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target artifact or enchantment.
The artwork is brutal. Kind of looks like Ultron getting ripped apart. I think the card is pretty sweet. I mean, deals 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker, not the face. If this could hit anything, any target, I think this card would be absolutely amazing. But because it's sorcery and only hits creature or planeswalker, I think it's just a good card. It's nothing too wild. It's just good.
I really like this I like this for 2 reasons. In Standard, I like it because it's a fine removal spell that can deal with most early game creatures, but then also incidentally lets you blow up a Shark Typhoon or a Great Henge or an Embercleave with the second mode. So I think that flexibility is key. The other place I like it a lot is in Modern, where this just hits all the marks for a sideboard card. Like, picture what a Braid does. This isn't a Braid.
Yeah.
They can hit a Planeswalker if you need to, which is sometimes relevant, and can blow up an enchantment. So it's like a wear tear / a Braid. My only concern is it is a sorcery. That is a big drawback compared to being an instant, but I still think this could have a lot of potential in sideboards in older formats, just because it gives you answer to aggro creatures, answer to artifact, answer to enchantment. That's a lot of things you want in your sideboard, all in one sideboard slot.
But who plays
I like
Boros
this for Modern, but
in Modern?
exactly.
And
Jeskai.
you have Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay, which kind of do the same thing. Kind of, but at instant speed, and I guess depends.
But those are in Golgari colors, though, right? That's the thing. So, like, for Boros, like a burn deck can
But
play
Burn would
this.
never play this because it doesn't kill the other player, right? They already have so many like Smash to Smithereens and things like that they could be playing for their hate cards.
Yeah.
Like Burn is the only Boros player, right? Like no, like I guess if you play Jeskai Control or something, but when you just play Wear Tear or something, like would you really?
I think this is. I would say this is
I think
better
it's
than Wear Tear.
right? I mean,
But sorcery speed,
Yeah.
sorcery
I
speed.
think
I guess you can Snapcaster it.
The other home that I think is pretty obvious is in Niv decks, 5-color Niv decks,
Mm.
in basically every format. That's a lot of flexibility, and I could see it be main deck in Niv decks.
yeah, I would play this in like the Niv to Light, historic or modern versions, or Pioneer versions, sorry.
Yeah, it is a promo pack card, so Wizards thinks it's good. So we'll see where it ends up.
We just got a
the
Divine
last
Gambit.
one was Growth Spiral, right?
We just got a Divine Gambit as a Mystic Archive, so I don't know how much weight to put in that anymore.
I keep forgetting that card exists.
Wizards keeps reminding me. I keep trying, but they keep throwing it back in front of my face.
But have you tried?
Try it. It's
Divine
fine. We
Gambit.
promise. You're not going to die to an Ugin if you kill their 2-drop.
Ooh, there's a new lesson. Is this any good? Reduce to memory. 1 white, uncommon. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token.
That's pretty good.
That
For Sam.
That's actually a
might be the best that
sideboardable
we've
card,
seen.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's something I could see already playing in my sideboard. And then if we have a lesson, it's all upside. So I think that's the best one we've seen so far. That one actually makes me a little excited for lessons.
That has to keep, like, also a lot of these lessons are sorcery speed, and that's making me big sad, but, like, why aren't they instant?
Yeah.
They'd be too good. I don't know.
Also,
I mean, we just committed a card in the deck for it, like, I feel like some of these should be instant, which is why I think that there won't be a counterspell one, but, like, whatever.
and you can even use that on
cry
your
about it
own
later.
stuff. Boy, this makes Divine Gambit look even worse.
All right. So that's all the time we have for previews today. There are still a ton of cards, so check them out on the site. And of course, we'll be talking about them next week as well. And since we're running long, we're just going to hold off on fish mail. You can still send them into MTG Fish Mail on Twitter, and we'll get to them when
Wait,
preview
didn't we
hype.
push it off last week?
Yeah,
And the week before that? We should do
No,
one. We
I
should
think
just
we
do
did.
one.
I think we pushed it off on the Commander Clash last time, didn't we?
Oh, we've never done
Yeah.
Fish Mail on Commander Clash podcast, even though we keep.
Yeah, so we should do one.
Okay, I'll do one real quick. Okay, but
No,
Wizards
the
and
answer
their
is no.
pacing on previews. Okay. We talked roughly about this, but let's actually talk about it. So, Moosely MTG, since most of the playable Mystical Archive cards have been upshifted to rare or mythic, Historic will become a pay-to-win format even more. Now you need like over 100 rare / mythic wild cards plus regular set to keep up.
You've always needed 100 rares just to keep up, right? We're already behind, and even as content creators, I think we're still behind.
Wizards
Yeah,
just doesn't
but-
want Historic to be cheap. Like, remember when they tried
Yeah,
to have it
so-
be double wild cards, like literally double wild cards, and we had to throw a big fit to get
This
them
is
to
a-
change it? Yeah, like
They've done that. they've essentially done that, right? I mean, they've made everything now just rare and mythic, just without telling you. They've kind of already made it. Everything is double like wild card.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's. I just really don't think they want Historic to be super popular. They want people to play Standard on Arena. And if you are going to play Historic, they are going to get their money out of you and make you pay for the privilege. So while I would like to see Historic be cheaper and more accessible, it does not surprise me at all that these are priced as expensively as possible for Arena.
Do you think this is the norm where they're like, it's a special promo version, so it's expensive, right? And then that's how we get cards into Historic. Because it's also the first time they did this, singles. Right? Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like Historic anthologies, but all the cards are special art, so hence they need to be upped in rarity. And now your deck is literally all rares and mythics, right?
Well, I mean, like Brainstorm is a rare, right? Like,
the only thing I'd say is I think next time we see these cards, they'll be normal rarity. So my guess is kind of like when you pay full price for a card style and then it goes on sale for 75% off like 2 months later. And you're like, oh, geez, why did I do that? My expectation is you're going to get your rare Faithless Lootings or whatever. And then 6 months from now, there'll be Jumpstart 2 and it'll have common Faithless Looting. And you'll be like, oh, my wizards, why did I give you a rare wild card?
How are you going to play your Historic deck in the 6 months in between, right? Like,
yeah, you gotta pay the price.
A lot. Lose a lot. Like a lot of these are going to be staples. Like these are definitely going to be staples in the format.
If there's good news, you do get one in each pack, so that maybe you can get lucky and open the ones you need.
Does this apply to digital packs
it does.
too? Like I will open it.
I'm surprised there's not more outrage on
what
this.
Place does
Isn't this literally like the Walking Dead thing where there's a new card in the format and the only way to buy it is this like premium type card, and eventually you can reprint it, but that eventually is like unknown, and so you have to pay the expensive price. Like,
well, I think this is because it's a digital thing, right? Like this isn't. We're talking about we're talking about Historic, right? Because for Historic, I think that's the difference. That
you're not allowed to play Historic if you don't have tons of money. Is that what we're saying? Like,
no, that's what it reads as, though. I mean,
like Faithless Looting at rare. Right? Like, are you kidding me? Like, where's
the thing is they?
Oh no, it's completely awful. Like I know this, and we all know that this is going to be extremely pricey, and I hate it. But at the same time, like I'm not really surprised. I guess
the thing is they could have made all the Mystic Archives commons, uncommons, rares, like if they wanted to, and distribute them the same exact way. So paper, absolutely no difference. Limited, absolutely no difference. So to me, it seems very intentional that they would have the rarity be what they chose to have it be. And the only reason I can think of it is it's like, well, we want to have you pay literally double wild cards. You managed to talk us out of that, but we're going to get our money out of you Historic players one way or another. So I don't know, maybe that's too tinfoil hatty, but to me it seems like intentionally expensive for Historic.
Yeah, or maybe Wizards is nice, and like next month they'll release Historic Anthologies 5, where it's basically Mystical Archive, but at the right rarities. Huh? Yeah, no.
I don't think they're dropping 63 cards as an active game.
I'm like rare
generosity,
rare lightning helix. Come on.
To think though, Divine Gambit, just uncommon. Like, it's such a good card.
All right. So Fishmail will return next week, maybe a week after. But usually we cover most of the cards, the things people are talking about, like Faithless Looting and like lessons and things like that we cover. So even though we don't officially cover Fishmail, we do cover a lot of the topics people are asking about. So yeah, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 322 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week to talk more Strixhaven and whatever else goes down in the world of Magic. So until then, have a great week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.